Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. I'm really excited. This is one of the sessions that absolutely gets me out of bed because I can't help it. I'm kind of a numbers nerd. And I will tell you that for those of you who might be a little freaked out, and it's okay. It's okay if some of you think, like, oh my gosh, I'm signing up for this financial thing, this financial literacy thing, and I don't really know. I'm not a numbers person. Who out there says I'm not a numbers person? If you're a numbers person, that's okay. But for those of you who are not numbers people, go ahead and self identify. I'm going to make it super easy for you. You know why? Because I finished dead last in high school. I actually failed my senior year. I went on to have, you're like, why am I learning from this guy? Because I went on to in the Marine Corps, got my life straightened out significantly because they are professional. They are professionals at jerking a knot in your tail, and you're not a numbers person. That's all right, Stephen, because I'm going to tell you something. I went on in the Marine Corps. They got me figured out, and then the really cool thing is I went into the accounting program at Purdue. Came out 4 years later with a degree in accounting. And I recognized one thing. As much as I wasn't a numbers person in high school, I recognized that accounting isn't about numbers as it is as much about rules. So if you can understand rules, you can understand accounting. You can understand the financial literacy piece. And all we're doing, if you can handle a four function calculator, meaning add, subtract, multiply, divide, you're going to learn 98% of what you need to know here. And you just need to understand the rules. You just need to recognize, you just need to recognize that the numbers are just representing things that happened in the past. All right. So that's all it is. And when you leave on the other side of this today, you're going to have a much better understanding. It's not going to be so scary. You're not going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't get this. It's just about rules. That's all I want to remember. If you want you to remember, if you can play solitaire, if you understand the rules of Monopoly, it's not any more difficult than that. All right. So we've got a few people here from all over the place. Let me just go ahead and say hello. We got Sam Hawqueen. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Delta Community College. That's in California. Very good. Hello, Robert. Yeah, Robert, your book's on the way. Thank you for ordering that. Stephen, you are from Georgia, and you have a commercial cleaning business. Very good. And I've got, let's see, Judy. Hello, Judy. You're from Boise, and you have a commercial equipment repair, sales, and rental business. Very good. Samina, you're from England. Very good. So it's probably, what, 8 o'clock at night there? Well, I'm glad you could make it. We are going to land the plane, put the fries in the bag right at the top of the hour, so we're not going to keep you guys too long. But Tatiana Orlando, very good. Lead student advocate, just started a business. Excellent. Very good. Rochelle from Detroit. Oh, Rochelle, good to see you. Your book is on the way too. And Laura from North Carolina. All right, so there's more people coming in. I want to go ahead and get started. We have a lot to cover, and I want to make sure that I leave plenty of opportunity for you to write in questions as you have them. So I ask a lot of questions. If you're able, please engage back with me. It really helps me to answer questions along the way, because my goal here, let me just put you guys at ease, guys and gals at ease. I'm not here to sell anything. I'm not going to, you don't have to wait till the end for the other shoe to drop. I'm not here to sell anything. I do have some other resources. Some of them are free. Some of them are a couple bucks, but I'm not here to sell those. I'm not here to push those. I'm just going to give you as many resources as I have, and you can figure out whatever level of investment you want to make. Mostly it's an investment in time more than anything else. But we are here today to talk about financial literacy for business owners. Many of you that I have been emailing back and forth with, if I haven't emailed you yet, it's probably because you either emailed last week and I wasn't able to catch up because I had a mastermind that I was hosting, or that you did it just today or late yesterday and I wasn't able to get in contact with you. But I'm not. I was messaging you because I just kind of want to get a sense of what some of the businesses that you're in. Some of you are in construction. Some of you are in solar. Some of you are in cleaning businesses. It really runs the gamut here, and we're going to cover a lot of this. This is one of my most popular sessions, is financial literacy, because people have this really I don't know where it came from. Maybe it's just the accountants are spreading this fear that you need them. And quite frankly, yes, you do need an accountant, but it's not all that scary. This is not all that difficult to figure out. So there is going to be some resources that I'm going to put up. Some of them are going to be at strategicboardroom.com. Don't worry about that right now, because I really want you to stay focused. I don't want you to multitask. I'm going to be referencing some of my books. Please don't go to Amazon and buy them because they're too expensive on there. You can get them through my website. I'm going to be referencing them, but just stay plugged in, stay focused because I don't want you to miss out on anything. All right. So, thank you for being a contribution to saying, where you guys are from and everything else. Let me get back to my main screen here. New York, handmade and curated jewelry. Oh, we're from New York. I was actually from the Middletown area, Gabriella. So if you know that area, that's where I'm actually originally from. Now I'm in the Midwest and the land of milk and honey here in Lafayette, Indiana. All right, so what we're going to be covering today, here's the presentation contents. I'm going to move myself a little bit out of the way because this is, I know this is somewhat small. Let me get out of the way there. All right, so we're going to talk about, this is the agenda for today. We're going to talk about the Viper method, which is the methodology that I wrote about in the Time Wealthy Advantage. That's my latest book. We are going to talk about the 4 core functions of every business, and every business has to have all 4 of these functions. If it does not, it will struggle, and it has to have all 4 of those functions. The third thing we're going to talk about is the financial statements. We're going to talk about balance sheet and income statement. Those are the 2 main financial statements that you are going to see, top and bottom. Are there others? Yes, but those are the 2 that you really need to understand as a business owner. And I'm not trying to make you into an accountant. I'm not trying to make you into a bookkeeper. I'm just making sure that you can be a business owner that understands what a balance sheet represents and what an income statement represents. Number 4 is, where's all my cash? This is going to be a little bit more advanced about growing broke. So if you have a growing enterprise and you're wondering like, oh my gosh, where is all my money? This is what we're going to be talking about, is growing broke. And there's a lot of ways a company can grow broke. And this is what we're going to be talking about, the crux of today. And at number 5, we're going to be talking about different resources and different things to set you up beyond today. So these are all the books that I have written, from real estate books to, because real estate's really kind of my first love. This is you've got the Time Wealthy Investor. The rest of them are there. The blue book, this is the one that you guys are going to be hearing about a lot about today, is the Time Wealthy Advantage. And this book has the framework that I'm going to talk about, which is the Viper method. That is what I talked about in that book. And the Viper method is section 1. This is what we're going to be talking about for the first part, because this is really the system part of the business. This is the system part where you're from Long Island? Okay, very good. Yeah, I've got lots of friends down in Long Island. So the Viper method is a framework. It's a framework. It's a strategic framework on how you build and create a business. So what the Viper method is, it's an acronym that stands for vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. I'm going to go through these super quick. There is a whole other course. I actually held it yesterday. I know some of you actually were, I think might have been at the course yesterday, the session yesterday, which was the business growth multiplier, where I go through this in significantly more detail. I'm just going to hit the high points of it today so you kind of get the sense of what it is. But it's a strategic approach versus tactical, versus this is how you do all the nitty gritty. You can't do all that. You can't put all the nitty gritty pieces together if the strategy is wrong, right? That doesn't make sense. So that's why you want to make sure you have a good strategy before you start focusing on tactics. So let's talk about vision. Vision, first and foremost, is made up of 2 components. Vision is just simply where you want to go. And those 2 components that make up vision are your personal vision and your business vision. Your personal vision and your business vision. From a personal vision perspective, the personal vision is going to simply ask you the question, all right, where do you want to go? Where is it you want to go? Where do you want to go in your life? Okay, the business vision is going to say, great, how are we going to get there? And the reason why everything has to serve the personal vision. Everything has to serve the personal vision. Many business owners who come to me and say, they think first of all, they think I'm a business coach, and I'm really not. I'm a strategist. And what a strategist does is we kind of clear off the planning table, and I've got a gigantic conference table in my conference room, and I literally will spread kind of everything out on whiteboards and big pieces of paper and all these cardboard sheets, just so I can strategically plan. And the way you do that is you have to know what assets you have. You have to know what you have in order for you, so you can plan for it. There's no sense in planning for something you don't have, right? If you don't have money, it's kind of hard. It's like, well, let's just pretend we have $1 million. Well, that doesn't make sense. So when you're coming together with a personal vision first and foremost, this is about strategically planning where you want your life to go. Then you reverse engineer a business that delivers that to you. The reason I'm telling you this is because we're going to be talking about business vision here in just a second, but the danger in creating a business vision without creating a personal vision is that your business vision becomes your personal vision. That's when all you do is work, and that's when you live for your business. And people, especially, I'm from the real estate world, and I don't know if there's any people in the real estate world out there, but I'm like, oh, I live for real estate. I love real estate. Yeah, you love it until you don't. And I will tell you, like, your business will never love you back as much as you love it. And I'm just here to tell you that sucks, to coming to that realization, because back in 2008, 2009, when I had $6.5 million worth of real estate basically evaporate overnight, 10 years of my life just basically was gone, because I went from $6.5 million to $1.5 million in about 8 months. And that was horrible. So at some point in my life, I had to start figuring out, what was I doing all of this for? And the danger in creating a business vision without first creating a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. Let me say that again. The danger in creating a business vision before you create a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. And I'm just telling you that that's an empty well. So for me, the real crux of the issue came when this was back in 2009, and I was working like a whipped mule, 18, 19 hours a day, and all of a sudden the economy started falling apart bad. And you'd say, well, what was I doing all the work for? Well, I had 92 rental units and very sparse infrastructure. I didn't have any of the infrastructure that I'm about to tell you about, or any of the systems that I put in place after the fact. So there I am. I have $6.5 million worth of real estate, and I am busy. I'm doing all the leasing, all the showing, all the bookkeeping, all the banking, all of the maintenance on 92 rental properties. And it was awful. And the funny thing is, during that period of time, I was hustling, working 7 days a week, 8, 10, 12, sometimes 18 hours in a day. And then just do it again. It was just the same series of Wednesdays over and over again. I don't know if anybody out there can understand what I'm talking about, but that's what was my life. Then the economy completely fell apart, and the labor market fell apart, and I was bringing in about $65,000 a month in revenues, which went to $30,000 a month in revenues. And that was month over month over month, and I couldn't weather the storm. And it wasn't long after that before the foreclosures started to come. So I started working more hours, because I certainly couldn't even afford to hire vendors because I was so cash poor. And the danger in all of this is because what happened was I was working 18, 19, 20 hours a day, sometimes grabbing a nap in Lowe's parking lot, because I had been up for 16, 17, 18 hours multiple days in a row. And eventually something like that catches up with you. So I got a cold and went to the hospital. The guy said, hey, take this medicine and go back, go get some rest. Took the medicine, went back to work. And it wasn't long before that simple cold turned into double pneumonia. And the only way that I could breathe is to put pressure against my chest and lean over the back of a chair. And so I knew something was desperately wrong. So I went to the hospital. They take me, walk me into a triage room. They lay me down on a gurney, and I'm laying on this gurney, and I start feeling tingling in my hands. And it wasn't long, because I couldn't really get up, because now I'm laying down, and it made things massively worse. I didn't realize I had double pneumonia at that point in time. All I knew is I just couldn't breathe. And I started to mouth for air like a fish out of water. And I'm laying there. I can't get up. I start seeing the fuzziness on the edges of my vision descend into a tiny pinpoint of light way off in the distance. I remember thinking, holy crap, this is how I'm going to die. I was incredibly calm, which is also a component of hypoxia. That's when the brain is being starved of oxygen. Closed my eyes for what I thought would be the last time. I woke up moments later. I don't know how long I was had my eyes closed, and someone was fitting a mask over me, and they were giving me a breathing treatment and got me sorted out and admitted me to the hospital for the night. Woke up the next morning, eager to get back to work, and a woman walks in the room, and she identified herself as a hospitalist. Now, I don't know, for those of you who are in the medical field, I'm going to do my best to describe what a hospitalist is, but it's basically a doctor who is like the liaison between like the hospital and your care. So that's kind of I remember her describing it. She walked in, she identified who she was, and I won't ever forget her. She was a little taller than me. I'm 5'7", so she was about 5'9", had shoulder length dark hair, stethoscope around her neck, and a doctor's coat. And she said to me, if you're thinking that you're going to get out of here today, you're sadly mistaken. She says, if you check yourself out, if you make it back, if you survive, you're going to be significantly worse off. Okay, noted. She goes to leave, and she turns back and she says something that just absolutely rang my bell. She says, I see a lot of people in this hospital. She takes her hands, she puts them in the front pockets of her lab coat, and she says, people who look like you don't lay in hospital beds like that. You really need to get a good look of what's going on in your life that brought you here. And with that, she turned and left. And what she meant was, I was in my late 30s. I've always been in good physical shape, but I literally almost worked myself to death. And that's why I'm telling you this story, because I was operating on a business vision with no personal vision. So I'm just conveying this to you, that I really want you to take the time to get intentional about getting really clear in your personal vision. And one way you can do that, I'm only going to give you a truncated example here, but it's a real simple exercise, is just pretend you're turning 100 years old. What would your birthday speech be? Who would you want to be there? What would you say? What would you want people to say to you after you were done speaking? What would be the message you'd want to take, what you would want others to take outside the room? That's a great way to form a personal vision. And your business vision, everything, all roads lead to that. Every decision that you make runs through that personal vision first before the business vision. Yeah, sometimes the business vision will trump that. You're like, okay, if it's for a period of a month or whatever. When I was writing my last book, which was a period of like, it was like 3 months. I talked to my bride and said, hey, sweetheart, I really want to get this book done. I'm writing my next one now. But during that last month and a half push, that last 90 days, there's a real push. It's a lot of work. And you have to enroll other people into that vision so they understand what it is that you're going through. And that can happen for periods of time, but not forever. Okay, so please, if you take nothing else from today, please make sure you're taking time to get clear on your personal vision. Next is business vision. There are 3 C's of business vision. 3 C's of business vision are your core purpose, your core values, and your client avatar. I'm going to do these really, really quickly because I got to get to the rest of it. I don't want to paint myself into a corner and not get to the financial stuff. The core purpose of your business is specifically what business are you in and what problems do you specifically solve. It's really important that you get very specific in your answers. I loved in the chat that many of you were really specific in terms of what it is that you do. That is fantastic. You know why? Because when people say, oh, I'm in real estate, and I'm not knocking anybody that just gave a simple answer. That's totally fine. As long as you know and it's written down what your core purpose is and specifically what business that you're in and specifically what business that you're not in, that's great, because that way you won't wander. That way when you put out marketing, people are not confused by what it is that you do. Because I know there's a lot of people on my Facebook page that from one day they're selling real estate and the next day they're selling some sort of athletic wear, from the MLM. And I'm like, weren't you just in real estate for like the last couple of years? What are you doing selling this stuff? It was very confusing to your avatar. So that's your core purpose. Your core values is specifically what matters to you about this business and how would the world be worse off if you were no longer in business. This is incredibly important to identify, and I'm going to tell you why. I know this sounds really like, really woo-woo and whatever. This really matters. Today, I got into an awesome conversation with a guy who came to me who we instantly aligned with our core values. I knew this guy and our core values aligned immediately because we had been emailing back and forth, and I had a session lined up with him today, and we chatted about a lot of different things, and all of those things we were in alignment with our core values. That's your tribe. Those are the people you want to work with. They are aligned in so many ways that it's easy for them to work with them. And you're just like, you don't look at the phone and go, oh my gosh, I don't want to answer this phone. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Right? You're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. This is why I'm saying this is important, that you really identify your core values. And your core values for you personally, your business is just an extension of you. So if you identify your personal core values, it's significantly easier for you to identify your business core values. So please take the time to identify your personal core values first and foremost, and then you can identify them in your business. Lastly is the client avatar. So we talked about core purpose, we talked about core values. Now we're going to talk about your client avatar. And this is specifically and ideally who you want to serve. I want you to get very, very specific with that and break them down into geographics, demographics, and psychographics. Geographics is where they are, demographics is who they are, and psychographics is how they think. So when you think about the psychographics, I want you to think of ALIA. That is ALIA. That is attitudes, lifestyles, interests, and aspirations. And when you get really clear on that, that's going to help you in your marketing. Now, I know we're talking about financial stuff here. I promise I'm going to get to it. But we're building a framework, and this is really important for you to know this in advance. Okay? So these are the three C's of business vision. And again, we're just talking about vision here, personal vision, business vision. That is the V of the Viper method. So let's talk about infrastructure. Infrastructure is the bones of the business. It's the desks, the chairs, the software, all the websites and stuff like that. That's the stuff that you need in your business, okay? And that is all in alignment. You're going to create an infrastructure that's in alignment with your vision, right? And the reason for that is because if part of your personal vision is to lay on the beach, rubbing cocoa butter on your belly, and, for 2 months out of the year in Spain, and you built an infrastructure that requires you to return emails and phone calls in a timely manner, that's going to be a horrible experience for you when you're trying to lay on the beach rubbing cocoa butter on your belly. Make sense? So this is why you have to build the infrastructure out first before you start worrying about processes. Now let's get to the processes. The processes, we talked about vision, we talked about infrastructure, now we're going to talk about process. Process is simply how you do stuff. And from a process perspective, there's tactical process and there's strategic process. Let's talk first tactical. Tactical is just simply how you do stuff. It's your standard operating procedures. Do I have any vets in the room? Any veterans? My vets in the room, thank you for your service. That's just simply your standard operating procedures. So you have your checklists. Those are basically your day-to-day activities. Your day-to-day activities are your opening procedures, your closing procedures, your bank, how you prepare your bank deposits, how you answer the phone, how you train, things like that. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with there we go. So that is the tactical part of the process. That's the day-to-day stuff that you identify. Strategic planning is around people, purpose, and promotion. So think of it that you built this, went too far. Think you went, you built this battleship, you built this warship, now you want to take it out of the harbor. And that's what strategic planning does. So now that you've got the strategic plan in place, now you can go on and go, you can go into a new market, you can launch a new product, you can launch a new service, things like that. All right. So that's the process. Now we're going to talk about execution. Everything falls apart in execution. That's why you have to identify it. A good plan violently executed now and today is much better than the perfect plan next week. That was a quote by General Patton in World War II, because most plans will fall apart in their execution. And that's because too many people have too many priorities, right? And the too many priorities problem is, does anybody have that to-do list of 27 items that you're going to get done today? Right? I know who you are. I can see you, right? If I had 3 hands, they would all be up, because I tend to overload myself with tasks. But having too many priorities has the same impact as having no priorities. And that's the problem. That's why you need to prioritize and make sure that you're boiling your most important things down to a daily 5. Your daily 5 items, that's just up to 5. I say up to 5 of the highly specific actions that you can take, which will move the needle towards your vision or your strategic plan, which your strategic plan should be in alignment with your business and personal vision. So these are 5 very specific actions, not like check email, check voicemail, blah. No, it's sending emails, picking up phone, make 20, cold calls, things like that. Now we get into reporting. Reporting is simply measuring what you did. And that's done in lead metrics and lag metrics. Lead metrics are simply based on your actions and activities. Those are the things you can control because you can control your actions and activities. The lag metrics are the results of those actions and activities. That's basically how many sales you got, right? Now we're getting into the financial literacy piece. The metrics is part of the financial literacy piece because whether you're tracking financial metrics or you're tracking lead generation metrics or sales metrics, it's all the same. It's all the same. So I want to make sure you're starting to recognize, oh yeah, I kind of have to measure what I did well, measure what I didn't do well. I sent out a letter campaign, nothing. I got nothing from it. Guess what? Was that worthless? No, because it told me that my offer was terrible. Right? And you might go, well, why would that know? Because I know people were opening it because we were hand addressing the envelopes. I know they were opening that envelope, but they didn't respond to the offer. That's fine. That's okay. That tells me that the offer sucked. Let me try it again. And I will get it back out there and I will figure out another way. I will create an offer that they're going to respond to. So that's why you have to look at your lead metrics and your lag metrics. And there's no failure. It's just, hey, I didn't get the result I wanted. That's it. So if you don't get the result you want, you just look at the actions and activities. It's pretty straightforward. That's the Viper method. So we covered the Viper method there. Let's get on into the 4 core functions. So the 4 core functions, these are pretty straightforward: lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. And your customer's journey in your company happens in this order. This is the order in which your customer experiences your company. They experience your lead gen, then they experience your sales, then they experience your operations and accounting. I'm just telling you this because lead generation for you never ends. Ever, 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 ever. Lead generation has to keep going on. Now, if you are in the business, now I just want to make this quick point that if you are looking to grow your business, if you are in here and you're trying to grow your business, lead generation needs to be somewhere between 60 to 70% of your daily activities. 60 to 70%. And I'm not talking, well, I just post on Instagram. I'm not talking posting. Posting is not necessarily marketing. I would argue that it's not marketing. It's branding maybe, unless you have direct response put in place, but that's a different webinar. So I'm just saying, like, you need to be focusing at least half, if not 50 to 60, ideally 70% of your actions and activities based on lead generation. If you have enough leads, you can be terrible at sales and still do well. Okay. So I just want to make sure that you understand many people focus on selling, but if you don't have enough leads, selling well is not going to matter. I want you to have so many leads coming in that you can choose to work with great people or not great people. And it makes it just so much easier to thrive in an environment like that. So let's talk about lead generation real quick. Everything needs to support your lead generation function because, like I said, you can have the best, most efficient business. You could be a paragon of virtue. You could sell ice to Eskimos and voting booths to Castro and still starve. That's true. So you can never take your foot off the gas when it comes to lead generation. When it comes to sales, sales is just, it continues the conversation started by the lead generation, and it understands that effective selling is about finding solutions. It's not about holding people's head underwater until they say yes. That's the Grant Cardone style of selling. If you've ever gotten roped into his folks. I like his marketing. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a brilliant marketer. I do like his, but I just don't appreciate the way he sells. Operations, if you're going to get stuck, generally you get stuck in the operational function. And it happens like if you're a roofer, you get stuck in roofing. If you're baking, you get stuck baking. If you're a plumber, you get stuck plumbing, right? That's what ends up happening with a lot of people who get stuck in the operational function of their business. That's generally where people get stuck. If you're going to ignore something, I'm pausing for effect. If you're going to ignore something, you're going to ignore the accounting function. Ask me how I know. I have an accounting degree. And I would say things like this. Well, I've got more money in my bank account this month than last month. I must be doing okay. I'm not going to ask you people to indict yourselves if you've ever said that yourself. But I'm just saying that happens. And that's why most people, when they end up not paying, they basically forget the accounting function until their CPA is calling them saying, hey, your taxes are on extension until October 15th. We need to get your stuff in. Oh, crap. Here's my shoebox with the receipts. Okay, so what does the accounting function do? The accounting function collects the money. I don't know about you. I kind of like to collect the money, pays the bills. I know my vendors appreciate when I pay bills. And more importantly, it tracks and measures everything that happened, and even more important, it forecasts, it budgets, and it plans for what will happen. This is the reason to have an accounting function that's dialed in. Now, I want to make this quick point because we're getting into the meat and potatoes of today's session. Are all of these skills the same? No, they're not the same. And that's part of the reason why you're not doing all 4 functions. And if you are, you're doing the thing that like you're like, oh my gosh, I hate doing lead gen. So you do it last. Or you don't like accounting functions, so you don't do it at all. Okay? So they're not the same skill set. Now, what I'm about to tell you is that maybe if that's not your skill set. So again, I have a degree in accounting. I am the least qualified person to do my books. You know why? Because I won't do them. That's why I hire a bookkeeper to do them. And then she brings me the balance sheet and income statement. And then with that, I look at it and go, okay, cool. Now I know what I'm looking at. That's what I'm going to be teaching you, is knowing what to look at. So even if you don't necessarily want to do your own books, which I would argue that you probably shouldn't be, because it's so cheap to find someone who can do this for a couple $100s an hour, for a few $100s a month, $400 or $500 a month, maybe at the most, if you've got a simple business, then realistically, you can have them do that and then send you the balance sheet and income statement, and then at least then you know what you're looking at. Because many times people don't. They have no idea. They get, or their bookkeeper or accountant sends them something, like they'll send them the general ledger. They don't know what they're looking at. Heck, I look at it and go, why are you sending me the general ledger? I don't have any reason to look at it. It doesn't give you anything in a format that's reasonable or rational. It doesn't mean anything. It means something to accountants. It doesn't mean anything to most business owners. Rightfully so. It's just a list of all the transactions. So let's talk about what we're here to talk about today. Let's get into the financial statement function. Let's talk about balance sheet. Let's talk about income statement. Now, has anybody ever heard, and you guys are a quiet bunch, so feel free to just keep chatting and I'll catch up. But does everybody know the difference between an income statement and a P&L, or a profit and loss? Okay, there isn't one. There is no difference. The only difference is in vernacular. So more accounting purists will call it an income statement. I call it an income statement because my background's in accounting. I'm used to calling it an income statement. Okay, Gabrielle, thanks. Hi, Michelle. The P&L is called, it's either P&L or profit and loss. They are the same thing. It's just a different phrase for the same thing. So you can call it P&L, you can call it profit and loss, you can call it an income statement. Same thing, but most accounting purists will call it an income statement. So let's talk about what a balance sheet is. Balance sheet is just simply a list of your assets, what is owned by the company or by you, list of the liabilities of what is owed by you, and the net difference between them, assets minus liabilities, will equal your equity. That's what you're worth on paper. So let me just make sure that you understand this. The assets is the balances of what you own versus what you owe. So if you own a $500,000 house and you owe $300,000 on it, your net equity is $200,000. Let me say that again. $500,000 for the house, $300,000 in debt, is you have equity of $200,000. That's it. It's just the balances. It's just the balances of what it's worth, what you owe, and the equity. That's it. I'm going to give you some examples here coming up here. So just hold on a second. So income statement is a list of all of the revenues, your expenses, and the difference between those two things is your net income or your profit or loss if you had more expenses than revenues. So this is the income part of it, the income statement part of it. All right. So this is really, really important when you're looking at it from this perspective, because now when we get into this, I'm going to take myself down to the bottom so you can see this. Okay. So when you're looking at this, now this is excerpted from the Time Wealthy Advantage on page 265. I'm going to move this so you can see. So this whole sheet here, all you're going to see is just, if you can see my cursor, it's just the top. Okay. So just the top. So when I scroll this down, now all you're going to see is your assets. So here's a great example of what assets are. It's your cash balance. That's a good example of what cash is, right? It might be in your USAA checking or your business checking or whatever it is. Next would be your accounts receivable. That's what people owe you, right? That's what you've billed out. That's what you haven't collected yet. That's what you've invoiced to others. Your vehicles, maybe you bought a van, right? 2019 Ford van, and that's listed at what's called book value. That's the purchase price or what you paid for it, even though it may not be worth $29,000, 970, right? That it might only, that's what you purchased it for. And that's generally what you leave it on the books for called book value, not blue book value, but that's called book value. And then next is real estate. So you have a warehouse worth just over $250,000. So 275,000. I kept the numbers pretty lean just so people could understand and make it nice and simple. So my total assets are $417,000. Okay. Now this is the balance sheet again. You got your assets at the top, liabilities at the bottom, equity all the way at the bottom, the difference between the two. Let's look at liabilities. Liabilities is what you owe to others. So maybe you've got a credit card balance that you're due to Chase, like $35,000. You owe vendors, that's your accounts payable, of $37,500. That's the balance currently of all of what you owe out to all of your vendors. Okay. Now you have a loan on that van from Wells Fargo to the tune, right now the balance is $11,500. And then you have a mortgage from Citibank for that warehouse for $105,000. So your total liabilities is $189,000. The difference between the two, okay, right there. So the difference between the two is your total equity down at the bottom, $227,000, $228,000. Okay, so that's the balance sheet. Now, I want to make this quick point, and we're going to move on to the income statement because we're going to be rocking and rolling here. You're going to be getting a replay on this. I will be sending it out. I'll put it up on YouTube. I'll send you the link. It's also, you can play it again through Eventbrite if you want. Here's the thing, okay? The balance sheet is for a specific point in time. So if you did your balance sheet, if you had your bookkeeper run your balance sheet at 8 in the morning and you brought in $1 million and you paid out 900,000, right? And cut checks, your balances are all going to be different, right? Because you're going to be net up 100,000. But my point is that if it's for a specific point in time. So I just want to make sure that you're clear on that, because the reason why that's important to understand is because the income statement is over a period of time, right? So this is generally one month, 1 quarter, 1 year, okay? So your income statement, your P&L, is your revenues, or sales, your expenses, which are the payments that you make on your bills basically, and your net income. What's left over is your net profit, or you may have a loss. So let's look at the income statement. Again, this is over a period of time. So let's just say it's for 1 month. So you have product sales at the top. Let's look at the very top, revenues. So product sales is $75,000, service sales is $39,000, and then you have total sales of $114,000. You see those percentages off to the right? Those are a percentage of sales. We're going to talk about that here at the end. So hang in there, because those numbers are very, very critical. Those are very critical for understanding and having a real good understanding of financial literacy. So we looked at the revenues. Let's look at the expenses. Same thing. Okay. The expenses, raw materials. I'm not going to read them all, but you get the idea. The total expenses are $96,000 and your total net income is $17,600 for the month. And you've got your percentage of sales calculations off there to the right for your percentages. Okay. So that represents your income statement. Okay. So you might think, okay, what does this have to do with the price of tomatoes? What does it mean? Why does it matter? Why should I care? Well, I am glad you asked, because we just got done with the financial statements. That is your brief tutorial on that, which we covered in about 10 minutes. Did I lose anybody? Is everybody okay? I want to do a quick, let me go ahead and get typing in yes, no, whatever. I just need to make sure I didn't leave anybody behind. Can I get a yes, a confirmation, anything like that? Boo. Okay. Presley, did you understand what I'm saying? Okay, yes. I'm seeing some yeses there. Okay, great. All right, thank you. Understood. Okay, perfect. This is not complicated. It's rules. That's all. It's just rules. The main thing, got to go. Okay, no worries. Ryan, this is, or good to go. Okay, very good. All good. Okay. Oh, yes. All right. And for those of you who have to hop out, no worries. If you do have to go, I will send you the replay, because I know you guys are busy and, picking up kids at school and things like that. I totally get it. So let's get back to this session here. All right. Now, from here, we're going to build on this. This is why I had to take a stop and just say, okay, thank you, Tatiana. Thank you, Robert. Moving the slides too fast. Please show the income statement slide again. Okay, I'm going to move it back just for a hot second. Okay. So that's the income statement slide right there. So if you want to take a screenshot of that, that is what it looks like. And you can Google this stuff and find out this is a very simple income statement. Okay. So there you go, Lisa. And again, you're going to get the replay for this as well. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the, there we go. Where is all my cash? So this is what I'm talking about here is a phenomenon called growing broke. If you are growing your business, what can happen is you start growing faster than your ability to generate cash. This is very, very common with a very rapidly growing business. So what happens is companies start to grow broke. Oh, and it's in my book. Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Got it. Thanks. You're welcome, Lisa. So when you're looking at it from a growth planning perspective, you cannot be strategic in your growth if you do not know your numbers. So if you have not done anything like this, look, it's not that hard. And I'm not here to try to make you guys into bookkeepers. That is way past where you guys are at. And I honestly think that realistically, you probably, if you're not doing it now, you probably just need to get someone to do it for you, or just at least get you caught up so you can do this financial stuff. Because many times people just aren't doing it. And as a result, they have nothing. They're literally driving a speedboat in the fog. They have no idea what they're doing because they're not really sure. They're looking at their balance. They're looking at their balances in their checking account every day and going, yeah, I think it's okay. I can't help that. You have to be strategic. You have to plan for this. And this is why you can avoid growing broke when you have the your bookkeeping and everything kind of tied up, where you can have reconciled balance sheet, reconciled income statement, and you know what you're looking at. All right. So let's talk about a key metric. There's 3 key metrics. We're going to make a big point about the first one, which is profit margin percentage. So there's profit margin percentage, there's cash balance history, and cash as a percentage of sales. I'm going to take the next 17 minutes to explain all of these. So I'll hang out for a little bit for questions, but this is not hard. It will take a little bit of math. I promise you, it will not be scary. I'll hold your hand. Metaphorically, digitally, I'll hold your hand. Okay, you'll be good. All right, so let's look at it. So we're going to be focusing on profit margin percentage here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at your revenues. All right, so let's take a look. And now again, I'm going to get my big mug out of the way. Hang on a second here. Okay, so if you see this column off to the right, that green column is what we're going to be focusing on. Those percentage of sales. Percentage of sales is what we're going to be paying attention to. So if you look at your income statement, right? We looked at the income statement here. Now look, if you look at the revenues for your sales, you got $75,000 worth of product sales and service sales of $39,000 for total sales of $114,000. You got your total sales as a percentage of sales is $114,000. That's 100% of sales. Makes sense, right? 114 over 114 is 100%. Can you talk about what it means to reconcile the income statement and balance sheet when you get a chance? Lisa, I'm going to do that right now. Thank you. I thought as soon as I said it, I was like, I should probably explain what that means. Okay, let's press pause. When I say reconciled balance sheet and reconciled income statement, I'm talking about the books have been closed for almost everybody on this call, and I don't know who everybody's going to see this call. But what I'm talking about is when you reconcile your bank accounts and your credit card accounts and all of the loan accounts and basically to the end of the month. So you know how you get your bank statement at the end of each month and you get your credit card statement and you get your mortgage statement, right? You get all those statements. What I'm saying is that your bookkeeper is going into QuickBooks or whatever accounting software that they're using, and they're reconciling, oh, okay, they take the statement, and it says there was 5 deposits on the statement, and you look and there's 6 deposits in QuickBooks. You go, huh, why is there 6 payments in there, but there's only 5 here? Well, maybe one didn't hit in this month, right? Maybe it got lost. Maybe it was double entered, but something's off, right? So actually what happens is your books look like there's too much money in the bank account, right? That's no bueno. But then you look and you go, no, it was at the end of the month. It just rolled over. It didn't hit here. So I just maybe need to change the date, right? Okay, cool. So the deposits are good. Now let's take a look at all the expenses. And let's say I've got 20 different expenses, right? And I look and I'm going in there and I'm just checking them off going, yep, that looks, yep, that's good. Yep. Oh, wait, that one's missing. Where'd that go? What is this one? This got posted. Oh, that's fraudulent charge. Oh, I need to get in touch with my bank, let them know there's a charge that hit here that did not show up here. It's because it's a fraudulent charge. Or, I got something in there that's not in here. Why did it not come out? Oh, you know why? Because it actually came out of my credit card account, not my checking account. I made a mistake. Okay, this is what reconciling does. So then at the end, you'll hit reconcile, and the balances from the beginning to the end of the month match what's on the statement. You click reconcile, it's done. That account is locked. You cannot change it at that point, right? So that means your balance sheet, the cash line on your balance sheet, is now reconciled. There's nothing else to change. All the expenses that have been on the income statement, because some of those charges in your checking account represent expenses, those are locked, right? So once you start reconciling your checking account and your credit card accounts, once those are reconciled and those are locked, now you have reconciled bank statements. You have reconciled bank statements. Now you have reconciled financial statements. And that is why you should not be looking at financial statements unless they are reconciled. Otherwise, because you're looking at garbage in, garbage out. You have no idea what you're looking at. Hopefully that made a little bit more sense for you. But if they're not reconciled, you have no idea if the data are correct. Okay, so hopefully that helped explain that a little bit. Maybe I need to do one in reconciliations. So, all right, so we'll move on. But that's basically what that means. So the product sales, what you're paying attention to here, why this is important to break this down between product sales and service sales, is because you may have, totally makes sense. Thanks, Michelle. So you may have higher margins in your product sales versus your service sales. So you might say, great, I have $75,000 in product sales, and maybe you get to keep 50% of the product sale money, right? Because your margins are 50% on that versus only 10% on service sales. What I mean by margins is the dollars you get to keep. Okay, we're going to talk about margins here in a hot second, so hang with me. So this will make more sense in a second. So when you're looking at the other side of the equation here, the net income, you see down at the bottom and the bottom right where it says 15.5%, that's the profit margin. Okay, that's the total profit margin for all of the business. So the 17,680, that's 15.5% of 114,000 at the top. So you see the top line where it says 114,000. So you're getting to keep 15.5% of sales. Okay, is it good, bad? Well, it depends. It depends on your industry. It depends on a lot of things. But generally, anything over 10% is a growing company, right? I like to keep my margins nice and fat. That way, I can always make sure that I'm stacking cash and I'm staying nice and healthy. Okay, so why does this matter? This is how companies grow broke. So pay attention. If you pay attention to nothing else, personal vision, pay attention to personal vision. But if you pay attention to nothing else, make sure you're paying attention to this, because this is really, really important. Let's pretend from a very basic perspective, and this is how companies grow broke. Let's say that you have a business and you have $10 in revenues and you have expenses of $8 and you have a net profit of $2, which leaves you a net profit margin percentage of 20%. 2 divided by 10 is 20%. Okay. So now let's say that your costs go up by $1. Okay, so your expenses go from $8 to $9. Okay, so you say, well, shoot, I need to cover that extra dollar in expenses, so I'm going to raise my price $1. So you go from $9, from $8 in expenses to $9. You go to, you go to from revenues of $10 to $11, and you still make the same $2. But what happened, and I want to hear from you, what happened to the net profit margin? What happened to the net profit margin after I raised my price $1 to match the expenses going up $1? What happened, guys? It went from 20% down to what? 18.2. It went down. Thank you, Michelle. It went down. It dropped. Thank you, Rochelle. This is, or Rachel, so this is the net profit decrease. Now, this is how companies grow broke. This is important. You are now less efficient at keeping dollars. Your business, you're not protecting your profit margin percentage. You have to be on that like a freaking Band-Aid. You cannot allow your profit margin percentage to drop, because if you do, this is how you will grow broke, because you'll be making a little bit more and keeping a little bit less. And that's how companies grow broke. You have to protect your profit margin. If I was going to protect my profit margin, let me bring this back up on screen. What I would do is I would raise my price $1.25, $1.25 to that net expenses of $9. That yields me $2.25, which now is the same 20% profit margin. I believe that that is the correct number, right? So, did I get that right? Yeah, I did that right. So basically 11.25 divided by 2.25. Yeah, 2.25 divided by 11.25. Yes, 20%. So I did that right. So so you would want to raise your revenues to $11.25 minus $9. Now I get to keep $2.25, which now maintains my profit margin. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why companies make record profits in inflationary environments, because they maintain profit margin percentage. That's why your grocery store did not come back down to their normal pre-pandemic prices. That's why. So I just want to make sure that you guys were paying attention to that, because I mean, this is how they protect their profit margins, because they have to. Okay. So let me see where you guys are. There we go. All right. So this is really important. This is how you grow broke if you're not paying attention. And there's other ways you can grow broke. I'm just keeping this nice and simple. They're much more complicated examples, but I'm just saying that you have to protect that profit margin. So if you say, hey, no, I don't want to make less than 20%. I don't want to make less than 18%. You have to make sure that you're pricing it appropriately. Okay. So when you're looking at where's all my cash, now I want to give you additional resources, and I want to cover those other three metrics that we talked about so you can start to pay attention with this in your business. So profit margin percentage is one of them. Now we're going to talk about cash balance history and cash as a percentage of sales. So let's first talk about cash balance history. Cash balance history is nothing more than just tracking your reconciled cash balances at the end of each month. That's a perfect example. Why am I tracking my cash balances? Because I want to make sure that that balance is going up every single month. I don't care if it goes up by $1. I need to make sure that my cash balance is growing. Why? Because when I have cash, I have choices. When I have cash, I have the ability to insulate myself from what's going on out in the economy. And I hear this all the time from people go, oh, but you're losing purchasing power to inflation. No, you are managing your risk. If you don't believe me, go out, Google as a company, Meta, Microsoft, Southwest Airlines, all the behemoths. Look at how much cash they have on their balance sheet compared to their market cap. Okay? It's unbelievable. The last time I checked, I think Microsoft had like a 500 billion. I'm interpolating here because I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like 500 billion in market cap, and it had like 1.5 billion or 150 billion in cash. Almost a third of its entire value was in cash. Why? Because it understands it's managing its risk. And the book that was written, it was called Great by Choice by Jim Collins and Martin Hansel. They wrote a book that really tracked companies that did really, really well. And the ones that did the best had 3 to 10 times more cash than their industry counterparts. Cash is king because it helps you manage your risk. And most times when I'm looking at companies, they say, hey man, I'm really struggling. And I look and their cash balances are awful because they never track it. This is going to help you make sure that you don't run out of cash. That's the main thing. You have cash as your insurance policy. So, that's what you want. That's what I track. Cash balance history. Then the next thing I want to do is cash as a percentage of sales. This one is a little bit more complicated, but I know you can do it. I know you can. It's not hard. But what you're going to do is you're going to take the asset balance, okay, your cash balance from the balance sheet. So your cash balance, again, at the end of the month, and let's say that you're on a 30-day operating cycle, which means that your money comes in every month, okay? So you're going to take your cash balance at the end of the month, then you're going to take your total sales for the entire month, right? So let's say it's January 31st, that's the balance sheet, and you're going to take your income statement from January 1st to January 31st. So that's your monthly sales, okay? And all I'm doing is coming up with the cash as a percentage of sales. So now what I'm going to do, so let me go back just so I can give you the numbers, right? So we've got, what is that, 10,350? 10,350 divided by 114,000, okay? And now I got 10,000 divided by 114,000, which is 8.7%. Now, is that good? Is it bad? Well, it depends. I want to see that number grow. I want to make sure that I've got enough cash to help me carry as a percentage of sales every single month. So if my sales are going up, I want to see my cash going up, which means I'm always going to be setting aside and allocating cash so it grows with my business. So in this particular case, I'm tracking it. That's one of the things we talked about, the accounting function, is you go from January from 8.7 to February 9.2, etc. Right? That's where you're tracking your key metrics, cash as a percentage of sales. So again, in terms of growth, you cannot be strategic if you do not know your numbers, and you cannot possibly hope to avoid growing broke. So I know we covered a lot here, and we're going to put the fries in the bag at the right at the end at the top of the hour. One of the things that, if I want to leave you with a couple things, some success strategies, number one and foremost, you have to know your numbers. There's no getting around that. And have someone start putting your bookkeeping together, right? You just start by starting. If your books are a mess, just reach out for help. If it's not your skill set, that's okay. But find someone who can help you. And you might, if you're really struggling, I may have someone that I can send to you that can help get your books sorted out. But you have to know your numbers, and you have to track your numbers, because knowing your numbers doesn't mean like I know people like, oh, do you know how much money is in your checking account? They're like, oh yeah, I check it every day. I'm like, yeah, but do you check it or do you track it? Those are two different standards, two different things. Checking it and tracking it is different. That means I can look back January from 2021 and I would know what that January number was. You know why? Because I track it. I want to make sure that number is always going up. So a couple things I have for you, and then I will answer any questions that you guys have. This is the Facebook page. If you guys are interested, I'm just going to go ahead and type this in, because facebook.com/groups/time wealthy VIP. I think I got it right. That looks right. Okay. Lisa's got a question. Lisa, I'm going to put your question up so I can read it better, because my 52-year-old eyeballs cannot see as well. Can you explain how to record when you're using your personal assets to pay business expenses, since those accounts would not be reconciled? All right, let me make sure I'm understanding your question here. Can you explain how to record when you're using your personal assets to pay business expenses? So do you mean like personal revenues, like you've got money coming in, or are you using personal? Can you give me more specifics on that? Any advice on generating leads? Steven, I actually have a marketing magic session that would give you lots of ideas, because I always have lots of ideas. So I'm going to put that up. I'm actually going to put that up as soon as we're done here. I'll probably have that up in the next hour or so, and you can register for that one. That one is, unfortunately, there's not a short answer to that one. It's also going to depend on your avatar, right? That we talked about. It's also going to depend on your what your market is and what you're trying to do, what business you're in, and so forth. Okay, so I'm going to do the best I can to answer your question as you're typing, Lisa. So if you're using your personal stuff, and I get this, let me take this, take that out of there. All right, so if you're using your personal assets, no expenses, paying things for the business by your personal credit. Okay, now that makes more sense. Okay, here we go. I figured that's what you meant. Okay, so you're paying for things for the business with your personal credit card or personal bank account. Okay, I do this actually. I do this because, let's face it, I run a lot of money through some of my business accounts, and I want those points. You know what I do with those points? I buy silver. I don't use that money I buy silver with it because I get a physical asset that is right now is increasing in price. And that's what I do. So I actually turn that over and do it that way. So what I do ends up as paid in capital. Yes, so there's a couple ways you can do it. If you're going to use a credit card for that credit card should be used only for that business. If you're commingling, that's where it starts to get a little tricky. And I would really recommend that you don't do that, because if you do that, And the whole point of you having an LLC is so you have the liability protection. And if someone, let's say something happens in your LLC and someone wants to sue your LLC, and they want to sue you, well, if they sue your LLC, it protects you, right? It protects you from that sort of thing happening. But if you're using like your personal card to go out and have a dinner out with your friends, and then you're using your personal card to also buy business expenses, I'm telling you that will pierce the corporate veil. So you have to be really, really careful about this. I do have personal cards that I only use for the business. Okay. So you might want to talk to an attorney about if that could potentially pierce the corporate veil. I don't believe it will, but even still, you just got to be really careful about that. So that aside, let's take the legal thing out of this off to the side. I would only recommend using one specific credit card that may be in your personal name for the business, and that's all it's used for. And because that way you're not commingling. Otherwise, what happens is you technically would have to account for that as an owner's injection, right? That's technically how you're supposed to do it. And when you're paying yourself out as an owner's draw. So it gets a little bit more sketchy that way, probably beyond the scope of this right now, what you're doing, and probably more for like an advanced call, for like a one-on-one call with me. But I'm just telling you, like, that's something you have to be really careful about, because you could lose your LLC protections if you're doing some things that are not right. Thank you so much for this info. Yep, glad it's been helpful. Okay, great. So I'm going to give you guys one quick access point. There is a free video course that I have. Let me get this. You don't necessarily need to see this. Let me do this. I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share for just one quick second. There's a free video course. By the way, if you're interested in other Eventbrite stuff, just look for more stuff, because I'll have that. But I want to show you where you can get access to a free video course if you're interested. And let me just figure out how to share my screen. So stop screen and screen share window. Hold on one second. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to strategicboardroom.com, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So let me do that real quick. So if you go to strategicboardroom.com, and let me put this up here, and you have access to the free course. It is totally free. You don't have to pay anything for it. And so there's that there. Sorry, guys. This is taking me a hot second. There we go. Okay. So this is, if you go to strategicboardroom.com, this is what it looks like here. If you go up here to courses and logins, up here on the right, if you see my little hand up there, can you guys see? Okay. If you click courses and so the top is the paid courses. If you scroll down to the free courses, you'll have the free Business Owners Money and Finance Intro course. It's going to talk a lot about what we talked about today, but there's going to be some other additional stuff in there. So just scroll down. You'll see it's one that's right at the bottom. Just click on that, and it'll take you into the login, and you can get access to that information there. So if you are interested, just go to that and sign up. And that's also where you'll log in to find it after the fact. Okay, that is all I have. Thank you all for sticking around. I really do appreciate your great questions. And it's not available yet. What is the page? I'm not sure what you're asking, Tatiana. It's not available yet. The page, oh, I'm sorry. The page is this. I can actually put this up on a banner. strategicboardroom.com. That's where you go. I should have done that. You'd think I'd done this but enough times. But that's where you'll go, strategicboardroom.com, and that's where you'll be able to find what that is. Oh, the Facebook group. The Facebook group is, let me copy and paste it, because I might have messed that up. Give me 1 second here. So here, in groups, and here we go. Time Wealthy Advantage. Copy. Okay. Sorry, this is just hard to do. There. Paste. There. Okay. Can we get a link to purchase your book as well? Yes, it's actually on the main page if you go to strategicboardroom.com. If you are, so here's the thing. Again, I'm not here to pitch that, but if you guys want to buy the book, what you can do is go to strategicboardroom.com. On the front page, there's a link that will allow you to buy the book. There's also, it will allow you, if you buy the book, you can also get a session with me if you are interested. So that would be it's not a sales call. It's strictly whatever it is that you want to talk about. So you can also get access to answer any questions that you want and whatever you are interested in. So strategicboardroom.com is where you want to go. There's all sorts of stuff there that's for free stuff or very low price. You don't have to buy anything if you don't want to. If you go to Amazon, if you're not domestic, let me land one thought before I start another. If you're US domestic, I can sign it for you and send it out that way as well. If you're international, I apologize. I don't have a mechanism to price things because pricing is all over the map when it comes to that. Your best bet is to buy it off of Amazon. If you do want a free coaching session, just send me a screenshot. You can get in contact with me either on Facebook or through the website. Just tell me, hey, look, I bought it and I'd like a free coaching session. So I'm happy to do that. I just don't want it. It's just too hard for me to do that. Strategicboardroom.com. Thank you, Michelle. All right. I think we're good. I'm going to cut it loose. Thank you all for sticking around. Have a great rest of your day. And I will send out the replay here shortly. We'll see you guys next time.